Hello everyone, my name's Martin, or Wimpy. Welcome to my world. This is a new experiment, something I've been inspired to do by my good friend Alan Pope, who for many months now has been posting videos and live streams on like how to test and QA Ubuntu. And there's been some real value that people have been getting from this in the community, learning a new skill and helping in the community processes. And I thought to myself, you know what, I spend a lot of my time, a lot of my spare time in the evenings working on Ubuntu MATE or Debian or Ubuntu, and maybe some of the little that I know about how to do that other people would either find interesting or useful. So the idea is that I've got a few things that I need to work through this evening, and I thought I'd live stream it, and anyone that wants to, you know, come along and watch and learn can do so. And better yet, I can see Rick Mills is in the chat. Evening, Rick. Rick is the tech lead for Ubuntu. I'm looking forward to learning some new things from people that know more about this stuff than I do. So that's the basic idea. This is unscripted, unrehearsed, and due to flooding in the area that I live in yesterday, I had almost zero internet connectivity yesterday. So this is extremely risky. If I disappear off the internet, sorry about that. We'll just have to see how this goes. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this for this evening. I've got two things that I would definitely like to do. And there's a couple of other things I'm working on as well, so we'll see how we go. So for those of you that haven't seen her yet, this is our Focal Fossa mascot for Ubuntu. Some people in the community have given her a name, Felicity, so here she is. So let's start with the terminal. Now initially I was going to work on updating the artwork packages, because the deadline for UI freeze is next week, and I need to update some of the stock wallpapers and things. So that's what I was going to do first. And maybe I need to update some of the settings as well, the settings overrides, to use that new artwork. I can't remember. This was something I actually started doing about 2 weeks ago, and I've been away with work since, and I've forgotten where I got to. So this is going to be a voyage of discovery for you and I. Right, so that's my shell. I think I'll need a code editor, so let's start that up. This is a rather exotic configuration, and it's the first time I've used this setup, so this could go horribly wrong. Thank you all for joining, everyone. That's very kind. It's nice to see you all. Some familiar names in the chat there. In fact, the code editor is opened where I left off. So let's go and take a look. I have a folder called Development, and in here is where all the projects that I work on are under there somewhere. This is Ubuntu MATE related, so I'll switch directories. You'll see some gubbins there. I use a tool to set up my environment. So this is setting up all of my project-specific environment variables to speed up the time it takes me to do things. And I was working on the artwork package, so I wonder what state it's in. So git status tells me I've got some uncommitted changes and some new files. So let's look at those. There we go. So there is a version of Felicity that has been recolored to suit Ubuntu MATE, and this is where I'd got to, was hey Shekin, I don't know what to call you these days, your name is changing. So that's new wallpaper that we're going to be adding, and we also have the grey variant as well, which is the same as is in Ubuntu. This was quite nice for me, actually. So for those of you that don't know, I work for Canonical. Ubuntu MATE is my passion project, and I recently rejoined the desktop team and I was among the first people to see the new mascot when the design team finished it this year, so that was a treat. So consequently was able to prepare a version for Ubuntu MATE quite quickly. So if I just look at this change here, I've got a file here. Well, this is the XML that defines what wallpapers are displayed in the appearance control panel for Ubuntu MATE. And I can see that I've got an uncommitted change there that adds both those wallpapers. So there we go, we've got the appropriate artist, which is Canonical, even though I know the actual artist is Wayne Crosby, who's our brand guy at Canonical. Any improvements to the HUD? None planned for this release, no. Cyberlanka was just asking in the chat. So I need to commit that change, I need to add the artwork, so I think we'll do all of that together. Because these changes are something that can all go in one commit. So we'll add that. We'll commit that change with Focal Fossa. Oh dear, Fossa. Apparently it's Hey McPhail, how are you? It's Focal Fossa, I am reliably informed by my daughter. Mascot. So that's those changes. So now what's the outstanding changes here? So I obviously started updating the change log. So these are going to be published as debs in the Ubuntu archive. And because this is Ubuntu MATE artwork, it will be published only in the Ubuntu archive, whereas the majority of the work that I do for Ubuntu MATE I actually do in Debian, but obviously this is brand specific stuff, so it doesn't go up to Debian. So this is Ubuntu specific stuff. What's this? Something that love the sound of the keyboard. Yes, this is, which one have I got connected at the moment? This is a Black Widow Chroma Tournament Edition, and I like it because it's very good, not because I'm into playing games particularly. Right, okay then. So let's just look at what I was doing with the change log. So I was obviously updating this for the new default wallpaper and adding the mascot wallpapers. So I'd clearly prepared something there, and let's just see what this was. I imagine I've updated the copyright file. Yes, so there's a file in Debian packaging. Every file that's in the package has to have the appropriate copyright attribution, otherwise it fails the linting tests. So I'd already done that. So I will add the Debian copyright file, and I've got a standard bit of text that I put in for that. Update the copyright attributions. Now, it's possible that I may have uploaded a version of this already, so what will I use to prove that, I wonder? I think if I just start my regular browser, and we'll pull a window out of there. Oh, come on, you know you want to. There we go. And we'll bring that down. So I've got an empty Firefox here. So if I go to Launchpad, now Launchpad a lot of people think of as just being, you know, a poor man's GitHub, despite the fact that, you know, Launchpad predates GitHub quite significantly, and it's more than just source control, it's also the whole thing that builds the distro. And I have a couple of PPAs here. One is called Playground, which will be familiar to the Ubuntu MATE QA team, because this is where I upload all of the packages for testing. So those brave people, they upgrade and then test out the new stuff that I've uploaded. So let's have a look here. It looks like oh, so that's the backgrounds. Oh, that hasn't actually transitioned. So you can see here where it says new version. That means I uploaded a version into the PPA for testing, and subsequently I've uploaded into the archive or uploaded to Debian and synced it to Ubuntu. And sure enough, here is my artwork package that I was working on. So I did upload this on the 27th of February, and if I open that up I can see that it built for AMD 64. Now this package is just art assets, so actually it's built for all. So although it was built on an AMD 64 builder, it was built for all architectures. So that's what we're looking at here. So there's all of those art assets. So I know that this has worked. So I will just put that to one side for a moment. I'm happy with that change log. I think, and I know the package is worked. So I think I can upload this to the archive. I don't think there's any reason why I shouldn't do that. So we'll change. What am I doing? Change the change log to be a correct version number. So in the code editor here, this new package is going to be 2401 for Focal. I'm not going to change the dates or anything. There's no need to do that. You can see when I made the change. And this is what's called a native package. So this will only exist in Ubuntu, and the packaging sits alongside the actual assets itself. So we'll save that. I don't need these open. We'll build a source package. So a source package is required to upload to the to either a PPA or the archive itself. So I shall run dpkg-buildpackage, which will build me a source package that can then be sent to an archive. Now this has got wallpapers that go back to the very first versions of Ubuntu MATE, so 14.10, 14.04, something like that. So it takes a bit of time to actually bundle up all of those assets together, because as you may be aware, JPEGs and PNGs don't compress particularly well, and that's what we're doing here. We're compressing a whole bunch of stuff together in a tarball, and even with you know, a fairly beefy machine, this takes a while to process. Right, hello Jason, nice to see you. Who else we got? Hey Matthew Keller, who you can see there, is from the QA team for Ubuntu MATE. McPhail is in every community I've ever been in. Right, so now I need to put in my super secret, and this one is super secret, key to sign my package. So we have this package here, which is the source package that I will be uploading. I see Popey in there as well. Hey Popey, I think he's recording a podcast right now, probably can't hear me. Torren, hello Torren, he's been in the Ubuntu podcast community for years. And Bill, hello Bill, Bill is also on the QA team for Ubuntu MATE. And Luke WH, I work with Luke WH, he's one of our web and design team members at Canonical. Among other things, works on Snapcraft.io. Right, so what do I do with this source package? Well, you use a command called dput, and as you can see, if I was uploading it to a PPA, I would, you know, add this command, this here, to tell it which PPA to go to. But I am not sending it to a PPA. I am sending it directly to the archive. So I just say dput and the path to the source package, which created one directory beneath where I am. So that will now upload my signed package very slowly. Oh, I wonder if this was a good idea, Martin. My internet is very ropey right now, and I've just told it to upload a reasonably sized package. Well, this will test this live stream out. It could all come crashing around down by my ears very soon. So whilst that's going, why don't we have a look at a Debian package directory? So here's the artwork. All the artwork is, you know, laid out. This is a very simple package, laid out as the file system would expect, you know, where you're going to deposit things on the file system. So we were just doing the backgrounds, and I have directories for each release. And what one have we just been doing? Focals. There we go. We've got a new one here. No, few people will have seen that, but it's in there. And then those are the two we're adding. But then you can see here, here's the back catalogue of wallpapers. But the thing that packages all of this stuff up is this directory here, the Debian folder. And this has a hierarchy of files, and the important things are the changelog, so you can see what changed in each release. Rick has a good point in the chat there. So Rick is a Ubuntu developer, and I'm now getting warnings from YouTube that my upload may be killing my live stream. So here we go. We'll see how we go. But Rick is saying that he uploads from fast VPSs. I used to do that for this very reason, because I live out in the sticks and my internet used to be 3G. It is now fibre to the cabinet, but in a couple of weeks it's going to be fibre to the premises, so I should be able to do these streams and upload and download at the same time. Who else have we got here? The same super secret key as DistroTube. I don't know. I didn't see a video where he accidentally pasted his password on the screen. I imagine that's what you're referring to. I'm still looking good at this moment. Okay, that's good to know. But anyway, the changelog file you saw, you know, it's this stuff over here, you know, the new version of the package, who it was published by, and the changes inside it. The control file is probably the most interesting. So let's have a look at that. So this tells you that the source package is Ubuntu MATE artwork, and it tells you who publishes it, the version of deb helper it requires. Deb helper is a tool that actually, you know, runs things like make install, you know, auto conf configure, you know, so the thing actually compiles your software in order to derive the assets that go inside it in order to make a package, so the executables in some cases. And then we have the different packages. So I have a package called Ubuntu MATE artwork, which includes the icon themes, the themes, which is like the versions of the ambience and radiance themes, and then the wallpapers, and these are all meta packages, as it says in the description. It is a meta package. And then the wallpapers package consists of the common wallpapers, the wallpapers for Focal, because we're now, you know, working on the Focal release, so we want the set of wallpapers for Focal. And I have another set of wallpapers called Photos, which are some nice images from unsplash.com. And if you're unfamiliar with unsplash.com, it's like public domain photography images, and I found out about this whilst having a beer with Daniel Foray, asking him where he got the wallpapers for Elementary. So that's where that idea came from. And then down here we now see, you know, the common wallpapers and then the legacy wallpapers, and this is just the metadata and descriptions. And then there's one here, Ubuntu MATE Wallpapers Complete, which has got every wallpaper meta package listed. Now, in terms of what installs that stuff, there's a bunch of files like this. So the name of the package.install. So if we just open that up, what you can see is this package, when you install it, will take the assets from inside this set of files, from the backgrounds and the background properties, and that's what's in there. These are very, very simple deb packages, but nevertheless, there's quite a few files in there. Let's just turn the terminal on, see if we can get that going. There we go. So, Ubuntu MATE, you saw FFmpeg flash up there. Fish was reminding me that's something I'm working on at the moment. I'll probably do another live stream, maybe tonight, maybe another evening. I'm doing some work with FFmpeg at the moment as well. So if we just do a tree of the Debian folder, you can see there's these install files. There's the rules there. So if we just cap the Debian rules, that's the simplest. That's as simple as a rules file gets, but some of them are quite complex. Right, that package has uploaded. So that will now go into the build queue and get built. So if I just bring up this here, what we can now look at in Launchpad, oops, this third monitor thing is a bit crazy. If we go and look in Launchpad, you can find out about any package that's in Ubuntu. The URLs are consistent, so we're interested in Ubuntu MATE artwork. So you can replace this last piece of the URL with any package name in the Ubuntu archive, and it will tell you a number of things about it. So if I open that up, first of all, you can see that for the Focal Fossa release, currently in the archive, is 200401. And if we open this out, you can see the changes that I made in that package back then. So I added a community contributed wallpaper, and I added a missing icon. And Rick Mills in the chat is telling me that he's monitoring the mailing lists and he can see that my upload was successfully accepted, which will mean it will go into the build queue soon. So the other thing you can look at on Launchpad, if you've watched any of Alan's videos in the last few months, you may have seen this. Hang on a minute, I've got a typo there. This is the status page for the canonical build farm. So you can see here there's 213 build machines available, 15 are currently disabled, and 169 are currently working. So this is the state of all of the software that's currently being built. So you can pop in here and go and have a poke around and see who's building software. So you can see there's someone building some backports here, somebody building a thing in a PPA. Now, I don't have to go and hunt down that list when my package is properly in. Here we go, it's turned up. Brilliant. So 21 seconds ago. So my package is now in what's called the proposed pocket. And we can see down here the little spinner currently building, and we can see that it's on an ARM builder. So if I open that in a new tab, I can actually see the progress of that build. So this will be tedious, but you can hit refresh and it will update. But that will take a few minutes to build, so we'll let that run. And whilst we're doing that, there's something else that I want to do, which is I think I need to change the settings overrides to use the new default wallpaper that's in Ubuntu MATE in the live session, because I think I've got a difference there and I can't actually remember, so we're going to learn together. So let's go and do that. So I have another package here called, you'll spot I've got a very simple naming system, Ubuntu MATE settings. So I always do a git status whenever I enter a new project. Debian files, I really need to ignore that from all of my projects. It doesn't need to be committed. In fact, I have no idea what its purpose is. I've just been told never commit that to to source control. So the purpose of this file, if we just look at the, in fact, as we've got the code editor open, let's look at the changelog. Oh, that's curious. I've never seen that before. There we go. So this is the set of files that provide the default settings or the settings overrides. So in sort of GTK, GNOME, MATE world, I think it's different for things like Ubuntu. I think it's the same for Budgie and Cinnamon though. You can provide override files. So they live let me share actually, share glib schemas, and that these files provide any settings to override the defaults. So in my live session, I am using green wall as the default. So let's just go and have a look what that is. Ubuntu MATE artwork, and then paste that URL on the end, and I should be able to see what that is. So that's the old wallpaper that was in the live session. I want to change that, so let's go and do that. I think I want to be using this. Yes, that's the new one. You can see the geometry, the triangles there are a bit longer, a bit bigger than the previous one. So we'll change that configuration and just change this here. I think that was right, capital L on logo. That looks good. So these are overrides that are only applied in the live session, and that's so you can change some key bindings to launch the installer with a common key binding. So that's the only change I need to make. So if I just look at the change log, that was the last change I made. So I use a utility called DCH. You may be wondering why, when I type a command, you see what looks like a command line completion. This, I use the fish shell, which I've been using for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years now. It's awesome, and it saves me a whole load of time. But it's not a panacea, because you need to learn some of its peculiarities. Particularly, you can't paste bash one-liners into fish without knowing how to augment them. But what fish is doing is it knows the last time I was in my development tree and I ran DCH, I did this, and it's already prompting me. And I do want to update the version, but as I type, it will start to replace the command with the most appropriate version. So I now need to rev this to 0.2 because I had 0.1 before, and my change here will be update the live session wallpaper to the new default. And if I now look at the Debian changelog, you will see it has written out this changelog entry for me. So it's put the version in that I requested. This is an unreleased package. It's put the change log entry in for me, and it's done the timestamp for me. And this stuff here regarding my name and email address, that all comes from those environment variables you saw getting changed earlier on. So if I just create a new shell, if I go to development Debian, these things here, this is dirn picking up my changes, and you can see here my Debian signing key, and I think I've got in the global scope my Ubuntu email address now. Anyway, now I can't upload a file that says unreleased, so there's a couple of things I'm going to change here, because I want to test this before I upload it to the archive. So I'm putting an equivalence tag on the end here so I can upload it into a PPA, and when I upload it with this tag and then upload it to the archive with the full version number, the full version number will supersede it. And this is for Focal. I'm hoping Rick is going to tell me how I change the release target using DCH, because I can't remember. Right, so we'll save that, and again we create our source package in exactly the same way we did earlier, and that takes much less time because this is a much smaller package. And then this time we're going to put this to my PPA, and we'll take the path to that source package and upload it. So that didn't take long either. It's tiny, it's just some text files. If we take a look at one of the let's take a look at that one. This is the main settings override. So here's the override for Slick Greeter, and here are some changes that I've made to the way that some of the components in the desktop were. Thanks, Torin. I'm glad you're finding this interesting. I mean, I don't know that it's interesting to everybody, but you know, it's a little peek behind the curtain as to how all of this stuff works, or at least how this stuff works that I understand, because I'm probably like level 2 in all of this. There are far more capable developers and packagers than I in Debian and Ubuntu. Now, whilst that is off building, let's just go and bring up the browser again. So let's go and look at our package we uploaded earlier. So has that finished building? Hasn't finished building yet. Goodness. Still going. Okay. Well, whilst that's going, we'll go and look at my PPA here, where I've just uploaded the new settings package. So if I refresh this, I haven't checked my email, but I'm hoping that this will have uploaded okay. I need to change the... Why is that not? There we go. Right. And there's my package that's been uploaded. And let's have a look. So it's currently running on ARM64 and ARM HF builders. I have this PPA configured with a few architectures, so I can make sure that things build and compile on multiple architectures, because if you upload something to the archive and it doesn't build on everything, then that's a problem. Yeah, you'd be surprised, Bill. Bill is suggesting I'm a level 18 wizard. I'm really not. I'm still, after I don't know how many years of doing this stuff, I still consider myself quite green with a lot of this stuff. I'm only just embarking on my journey to apply for what's called Mutu status, which is a Master of the Universe. The community archive in Ubuntu is known as Universe. I believe that Rick, who's in the chat, is a Mutu, and that's so I can help maintain the health of the Ubuntu archive beyond just the packages that I look after. And also, there's a couple of remixes that are bootstrapping at the moment that want to become official flavors, and I feel I need to pay down a debt because I was helped by lots of people when I was bootstrapping Ubuntu MATE, sponsoring and uploading packages, and I think it's my time to do the same for some other people. And Rick has just taught me the thing that I didn't know, so DCH dash capital D and then the target name. I could have changed the target name without actually having to edit the text file like an animal, so that's pretty great. So hopefully there. So this is my Ubuntu MATE settings for ARM64 has successfully built. It's uploading the build at the moment, and I can inspect the entire build log. So if you do have a build failure, all of the good stuff you need to know is in here, and you can hopefully track down what the problem is. I always put on my sad face when I have to trawl through the build logs in order to figure out what software is broken in new and interesting ways. But that is working. So I think that will be a good, safe package to upload. It'll take longer to build on ARM HF and ARM64 for obvious reasons. yeah, so Torin says that he's interested in helping cinnamon become an official flavour. And they're certainly at the stage now where they've got, you know, all of the pieces in place. And I think that they'd be keen for people to get involved and assist. And Stephen Keys is asking what the build engine is in the builders. It's actually a bit of software called BuildD. And the way it works is it stands up a clean VM, and then it ingests your source package, and everything in your source package tells the Debian build tools what libraries and headers you need in order to compile and build your software, and it then apt installs all of that in essence to satisfy all of the build dependencies, and then builds the software. And then the debs that get created as the assets of that then get harvested, and they get inserted into the PPA, so that, you know, when you add that PPA and update, or, you know, apt install or apt upgrade, you get the new packages. And what I'm doing here is using PPAs in the way that they were intended to be used. The original purpose of PPAs was for developers to upload and test new releases of their software prior to putting it into the next release of Ubuntu. So it was a safe place to test your software, get other people to test it and make sure it works, and when you were satisfied that it was all fine, then you can take those same packages and upload them into the Ubuntu archive. And of course, as we know, what happened is that people saw them as an opportunity as a software delivery mechanism. And we now have over 170,000 PPAs, some being used like this for me, test building stuff, and many of them being used as a means to distribute software. One of the reasons why we created the Snap Store, to centralize all of that. So I'm pretty confident that that settings package is going to be good. I think it's... Did it build on one of them already? It did, didn't it? Let me just double check. Yeah, it's successfully built there. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to assume I've done the right thing. So back to the command line here. I know there's a lag on the stream, so asking Rick for tips probably won't help, but I'm going to do this. I'd like to know how I do this without having to do this. I'm going to remove the suffix there so that it's now ready for uploading to the archive, and git status tells me that I've got some changes. So we're going to add the override. We'll commit that. And I've just got that change outstanding, so we'll update the change log, git add no, commit, and then I use a slightly different and then because this is going to be an upload, that's the version. Push those changes, and now we'll rebuild the source package. We'll get one without the suffix, and then this one we will send directly to the Ubuntu archive. Now, the only reason I can use dput, some of you pointed out earlier that dput is using FTP, which is obviously not the most secure protocol in the world. The only way, this is gated, so you can dput things, but the only way they actually get accepted is if the key that signed the package, that cryptographically signed the package, is in a key of people that are known to be trusted uploaders. I have what's called a PPU, which is a per package upload set. So I have basically the authority to upload all of the MATE packages and its associated technology, but I couldn't, for example, upload a new version of FFmpeg, which is ironic because I'm doing some work with FFmpeg and would dearly like to upload a new version. This is one of the reasons why I'm applying for MATE, so I can do more work in the archive more efficiently. So that's the settings change done too. Hello Dan. Dan Llewellyn is also another prolific community contributor who's in the chat. Most recently, or at least in the last few years, in the Snapcraft community as a Snapcrafter, and has made some very interesting snaps over the year. Most recently one called Clouds. You should all go and snap install Clouds. I'll tell you what it is. It's basically Windows 10 in a snap, which is pretty cool, I think. Right, so Rick Mills is telling me that he doesn't normally manually add the PPA suffixes, as there's automation and tooling for that in Ubuntu. Git build packages, yeah. So I've recently started using Git build packages, and I'm still learning about that. So I think that's something I need to make better use of. Right, okay. So I think that. Oops. So I've got a weird third screen set up, which is why I keep finding myself in the wrong place. So that one's done, but I didn't actually push my changes for the artwork packages. So upload to Focal, that was 20.1, and we'll push those changes. Now, although Launchpad can do Git code hosting and all the rest of it, I actually have most of the Ubuntu MATE projects in GitHub, and that's really because there's lots of developers on GitHub, and you get more drive-by contributions to fix things when your projects are in GitHub. So if we just head over to GitHub, Ubuntu MATE, we did some work on Ubuntu MATE artwork. If I could type, there we go. So we should now see, if I click the commits, there's the changes we've just made. So what we'll do now, again like an animal, because I haven't automated this yet, we'll go to the releases. In fact, yeah, let's just pull that to one side. Where was the last release? There we go. So, oh, I'm not signed in. Right, then let's get my two-factor out. Always use two-factor authentication when it's available, people. So Dan's saying it's a multitude of steps that need to be done in the right order. Yeah, and I suppose what will be interesting is that I'm showing you how I'm doing this with deb packages, a couple of simple deb packages by all accounts, but what will be interesting is I'm going to have a go at snapping some very interesting applications that I really want to get done, and I've been putting off months and months and months. So one of these I'm actually going to have a go at snapping something massive. In fact, let's not keep it under wraps. I'm going to have a go at snapping the Lightworks video editor. I did create a proof of concept snap for it a couple of years ago, and didn't take it any farther, so I'm going to revisit that one because that's an interesting project. So we're going to draft a new release, and I just copied some stuff into the buffer. So these were things that were added. Oh, hello. What's going on here? Right. So these are the things there. You might hear the stampede of tiny feet in a moment because I've just heard my daughter come clattering in downstairs. Right, these were the things. We don't need to put that in there. So this is just a release note for the new version on GitHub. So we'll have 2004. Was it 0.1? I hope so. Yes. And 2004.1. There it is. And we'll push that release. That will tag this. And now there it is. There's the tarball. So if anyone wanted this, this is really for my own sanity than more than anything. 30-second opportunity to log in as me. Unlikely. You need to know my password as well. Right, so that's that one done. And if we go back here, we did settings too, right? So let's do that. Go to the releases. And because I can't remember what I did. That was the only change, in fact. So this is 2004.2. None of this is necessary for uploading packages to these particular packages to the Ubuntu archive. It's just good hygiene for your software releases. But there are other packages that I work on where this is critical, and actually you have to do this stuff before you can create the deb. You have to create your release upstream and then have the deb consume that. So Bill says, seeing you do this. Oh, yeah, right. So yes, Bill is in the Ubuntu MATE team Slack, and we have some bots hooked up there. So as I'm doing all of this, Bill can follow along in the Slack bot channel, where you can see the bots alerting that all of these things are going on. Yeah, I mean, I feel this is far more laborious than it needs to be, Rick, and I know for sure that I could automate some of this stuff, and I really need to get round to it. But at the moment, the Ubuntu MATE packages, the bits that make up MATE desktop, really quite small compared to the other desktops. So I have to do this stuff a couple of times a year, like the big package revs, and I have a script that can do that. So that runs over all of the new releases and auto creates the new Debian package changes and then jams them in a PPA, and then I fire that at the QA team and find out how many pieces that's all broken up into. So those were the two things that I was going to have a go at this evening. I think those are the two changes that I needed to make. There's another one I've been meaning to make, so maybe I should do that one. How long have we been going for? No idea. I haven't got a counter anywhere. About 50 minutes or so. So the reason I was doing those changes is it's UI freeze next Thursday, so I want to get the last of the UI changes in ahead of time. The other package that I was thinking of updating was the Ubuntu Ubiquity Slideshow. Now, the other interesting property that my development folder has, yeah, 400. So Rick is saying he has 400 source packages to look after. I think I have about 50, Rick. So I have far fewer to look after than you. and I know you're a Mutu and you do a huge amount of work for the broader community. Hopefully once I get my endorsements in, I shall be able to join you and help shoulder that burden a little bit. Right then, my development directory is actually hooked up to SyncThing. So I have a laptop down here which I had with me whilst I was away last week working. So some of this stuff I was doing on my laptop, where I also have SyncThing running. Both of them are up to date. So the reason I do this is that it means my development directory I take with me everywhere. I know that what I have on this workstation and what I have on my laptop is the same stuff, and I can work remotely on my laptop, make a bunch of changes to things, and then when I get home and sit down here, whatever I got with things, even if I didn't finish doing what I needed to do, it's all still there, ready for me to pick up and carry on. So, yes, Rick, go and do that now. Go and write an endorsement for me now. In fact, shall I tell you what? Let's see if we can crowdsource this. This is a little bit cheeky, but hey ho. This is the browser I'm using, right? Let's just do that. Oh, on the wrong screen again. So, oh no, it's Wiki, isn't it? There it is. This URL here. This is my application for becoming a Master of the Universe. I'll put it in the live chat as well. There you go. Anyone that endorses me who has some standing in the Ubuntu community, that would be greatly appreciated. It tells you a bit about myself, but most importantly, why I want these extra permissions, and those are the reasons why. Basically, I want to help out some of the other community flavors. Dan, feel free to make up your most fake glowing endorsement and see if that gets past the developer membership board. Right, so what was I going to do? It was Ubiquity. So you'll be familiar if you install Ubuntu that there's a slideshow whilst you complete the install, and that slideshow is populated by this package here. And I recently, oh, this is bizarre, I recently updated this, and you'll see here that I was updating it for the focal artwork, and I did this while I was at the sprint last week. So last week there was a canonical engineering sprint in Frankfurt, and there was a whole bunch of stuff going on there, but that was one of the things I did there. But in the slideshows directory, there is a slideshow for Ubuntu MATE, and in fact, let's just do this. You can see what they look like by doing this. You can run test slideshow Ubuntu. So here you go. Here's what the new Ubuntu slideshow looks like without you having to download the new ISO, and you can move through it one at a time. So there's Felicity again, looking fantastic. And then with the help of the Yuru team, they redesigned the slides for this release, and I have incorporated their design, and they wanted updated screenshots, and I wrote a little script to make these screenshots, because as you can see from this window here, this is a 1080p screen. These screenshots are small, so I wrote a script where I could click on a window, it would resize that window to exactly double the resolution that this screenshot needs to be, capture that thumbnail, and then use another tool to do a high quality image resize, so that the screenshots, although small, hopefully have some visual quality and clarity to them. So this is the new slideshow, and yes, so you know, went off, found a photo of a Fossa and incorporated that into the thing. Another change I made is it used to be the PTV video editor. Shotcut's now in the archive and has been in the Snap Store for some time. It's my personal favourite video editor on well, it's my personal favourite video editor because I only use Linux, of course. And I don't think it gets as much attention as it deserves, so I thought I'd flex my newfound superpowers and signpost it in the installer. Hopefully people notice. So this is the new installer, or the slideshows at least, and I thought we'd highlight the new appearance properties that we've got in the release. So that's the Ubuntu slideshow, and if we just change that to Ubuntu MATE, in fact, I'll tell you what, first of all, Ubuntu made any changes recently. Ubuntu. Here are the Ubuntu slide. Are these still the ones you use, Rick, or are you using Calamari's now? Fossa, yeah. Anyway, so Ubuntu MATE. This is the slideshow for Ubuntu MATE, which by and large I think is okay. So this information is fine, although perhaps that should change because we use a different thing now. That's fine. This is fine. Also fine. Fine. That could be a better screenshot, couldn't it? And that's the change I made for Eon. So actually there's only one I really need to change in here, which is that one. And anyone that's in the UK may recognise this. There was the TV adaptation of his Dark Materials broadcast by the BBC at the back end of last year, and this is taken from that. Right, so that's probably the one I need to go and change most. So let's go and have a look. I can't quite remember. In fact, what we'll also do is just make sure I've got no uncommitted stuff, and we'll just pull as well, make sure there's no other changes. It's quite possible another flavour has got some changes there, but no, so that's good. Yeah, it's very good, Dan. It's definitely worth a watch. Slideshow Ubuntu MATE, the slides themselves, and then the screenshots. So I'm going to run the file command over each of those, and I can see that all of the screenshots are 448 by 304, and that video one is the only one that I needed to really change, I think. Oops. Yeah. Oh, I see. I see. We incorporate the background in there. I feel we need a more radical change here. Right then. I may adopt the styling that Yaru adapted for the Ubuntu slideshow and use that because it's much easier to manage the screenshots in there with that, which may well need another live stream to do that. Right, well, that's an hour. We've got two things done there. Let's just go and see how our builds are progressing. So here's the artwork package, which looks like it should be built now. Yep, that's built. and that's in the proposed pocket. So it will migrate out of proposed in a couple of hours, or if you enable it proposed in your focal configuration. In fact, what we can do, I know what we'll do. Let's test this. Let's make sure this stuff actually works. I'm pretty confident it will do, but let's actually do a test. So I've got a pretty idiomatic VM configuration. So I have this weird way of sim linking shell scripts to ISO images, and a script that runs up QEMU. So I'm going to do that, and this is going to run up the the daily image of Focal for Ubuntu MATE. And if we go into this folder here, if you've ever wondered, so there's the ISO, and there's a utility called ZSync, and if you use ZSync and point it at a daily image, of which this one is incorrect because it's the Ubuntu daily, but if we put Ubuntu MATE in there, that will go, it's a bit like a torrent, except it doesn't come from multiple, it's not peer-to-peer, but it will go and check the image and compare it with the upstream, and then it will only download the binary deltas. So you can keep these around, and each day you maybe only have to download a few meg in order to like sync the ISO with the one that's been published that day. I'm just catching up on the comments here. I need a wingman to go through some of this. Canonical should do more live coding type videos. Yeah, maybe not just Canonical, right? I'm doing this. I was inspired by Alan. He made a perfectly good point, which is we do this stuff anyway. So if we're sat here doing this, why don't we live stream it? Because maybe somebody will learn something, or they can correct us and teach us something new. But there's no reason why it just has to be Canonical people, right? I mean, anyone that's working on free and open source software could do this, and I know some do. I know Josh Strobel does for Solus, and I think he streams on Twitch. And I have seen in the past the Linux Gamer edit his podcast in Audacity, so you can see like his audio editing workflow and stuff like that. So, you know, there are others, and there's some people from Debian who I've seen do something similar. I forget their names though. So yeah, you know, I'm not saying it's right for everyone, and also I'm not saying it's the most gripping video in the world, but you know, if you're a Linux nerd, then, or specifically an Ubuntu or Debian nerd, then this may be interesting to see how it works. So my image was up to date in any case. So I have this script here called Virgil VM, which uses the snap of Virgil, which is a GL accelerated build of QEMU. And I have that configured in such a way, pre-configured, to be optimal for testing Ubuntu images. So I just have a shell script which binds the ISO image and boots it. So I'll leave that alone. I'll just let it boot as if it was booting on a machine, and I'll go through the install, and then I can very quickly, in fact I can also use this to, you know, test a couple of things. Oh, hang on, have I booted this? I've booted my virtual machine on a on a different display. You couldn't see it, but here it is. So let's just let that start, and here we go. It's nice to see that's finally been fixed as well. A lot of people ask why that bing bong sound is there and can we turn it off. It's an accessibility aid. It's actually to prompt visually impaired users that the system is ready, and there's some guidance that they can, there's keys that they can then push to turn on the screen reader and things like that. So I'm going to do an install. In fact, actually, I wonder if we can never tried this. Let's see if we can put that PPA underneath the running live session. Do you like this? My development PPAs. Skull and crossbones. Keep out people. So let's put that live PPA apt upgrade underneath, and we should. Here we go. So there's some stuff that's changed in the archive today. So GNOME keyring by the looks of it mostly, and then those Marco changes are out of my PPA. We're currently smoke testing some new patches for Marco, which is the window manager in Ubuntu MATE, and the rest of it is the stuff that we uploaded to the PPA just a moment ago. So it's the new themes and the new wallpapers. So let's install all of that. I wonder if the wallpaper will change dynamically. It probably shouldn't do, but because the session manager's already running. Yeah, don't do that, Dan. You'll break your system, guaranteed. The number of times poor Bill has come back to me like, oh, my system's screwed again. Yeah, it's something that I turned on in Ubuntu MATE to do this because I wanted to test some things. So it does look like one of these new packages is not super happy. Let's just see if that's because it wasn't synced. Oh well, we don't need that. It's unimportant. But the wallpaper didn't change, so I can't. How can I do this? Don't know if this works. No. Okay. That work? No. glib compile schemas. Do I have to give it a path? I think I do. Share. No. Okay. Well, I tried. Oh, I've now brought up the session underneath itself. Woohoo! How to hack your system in many interesting ways. I'm not in the. I'm in Ubiquity. I've now brought the session up underneath it. Anyway, yeah, I've made a mess of that. Let's there we go. Brilliant. We got there in the end. So there we go. There's that wallpaper that we were trying to make default, and it's done. So, glorious success. That package works. You saw that working here first. Not exactly the cleanest way to test it, but it does in fact demonstrate that it works. So let's start the installer. And we don't need welcome at the moment, so continue. Yeah, well, it's been ready for weeks. I mean, it's in good shape. I think we've got a couple of things in Marco we want to try and iron out. I mean, Bill, actually, if you want to tell me otherwise, I mean, you've been testing this stuff for a while. I don't want to download because that's not interesting to me at the moment. Let's do a minimal install because we can test and see if I've got any packages that I need to clean up in the minimal install. We'll do a full erase, so we'll grab all of that. So let's go through that. London is correct. That's me. This password is the word test because it's a virtual machine. Right. Let's let that run. Bill says he has a new thing pop up today. tell me it's a minor thing, Bill. Tell me it's easy to fix and that it's not a big deal. So that'll run through the install. Whilst that's going, let's just go and check Firefox and see if the artwork's done. It's settings, isn't it? Let's see. So because of the time I'm uploading these, it's about 9:10 in the evening in the UK. I think at the moment the ISOs are being respun for the daily images at about 3 AM. So it should mean that these will transition from the proposed pocket, as you can see here, to the release pocket in time for the new image build. So hopefully the new images will have that artwork and those settings in them. So Bill is telling me it was a auto start issue with Deja dupe. Okay. Yeah, so Rick is telling me that the install should do an apt auto remove after install. That's a semi-recent change. Okay. That's true, but what I've done is manually provided the reverse depends in the removal file for Ubuntu MATE to try and hoover up as much of the stuff that shouldn't be there. So I tell you what, instead of saying words that people probably don't understand what the heck I'm talking about, let's go and look at the meta package whilst this is installing and show you what actually defines what goes into a distro. So, oh, I'm running the thing there. So, in development, Ubuntu MATE Focal. So these files here are the ones that actually define what goes into Ubuntu MATE specifically. And each of the flavors and Ubuntu itself has what these are called as seed files. And the seed files are consumed by Germinate, and Germinate creates the meta packages that define the operating system. I'm just going to pull just to make sure that there's nothing outstanding, because sometimes there'll be packages in transition in Ubuntu as the whole operating system, and the Foundations team very kindly will come in and update your seeds for you if there's a change that affects everybody. So I've got a package here. The way the installer works in Ubuntu for a minimal install is this: you get the image of the distro get pushed to your hard disk, and then at the end it cleans up some things. So by the time you've told it what language you're using, it will then go in and say, oh well, you're using British English, I'll go and remove all of those lang packs for French, Spanish, German and all the rest of it. So in order to make the minimal install, we tacked a process on the end, which is this file here gets passed by the installer, and anything that's listed in here will also get removed at the end of the install process if you chose to do a minimal install. So here are all of the packages that get removed when you do a minimal install on Ubuntu MATE. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. That's everything that constitutes cheese. That's everything that constitutes the backup tool. These are all of the dictionaries and things that you won't require. This is everything that makes up evolution and so on. And so when you do a minimal install of Ubuntu MATE, you basically get the core desktop and Firefox and obviously the theming and the branding, but you get no other apps at all. So it's a nice sort of blank canvas to curate your own desktop experience. And that's what I use, because a lot of the stuff that's in Ubuntu MATE is there to satisfy general purpose users, things like LibreOffice, for example, which I don't use. I mean, very rarely do I use that. So I don't install the full fat version, I go for a minimal. And similarly, I never use Rhythmbox these days, I use Spotify for everything. So Rick is saying that he has also added what are called reverse depends, so all of these packages that make up Rhythmbox and all of its requirements to Kubuntu. And of course, this is a lot of, as Dan points out, this is a lot of heavy lifting that you just don't need to worry yourself with snaps. So that's what makes up the distro. So that's the removal piece at least, and then Ubuntu Mate is broken up into two components, core and desktop. So you can install Ubuntu Mate Minimal, which is this stuff. So some basic bits and pieces. This is an interesting one. There's a bug at the moment. If I don't install Xterm in Ubuntu Mate becomes Ubuntu GNOME for some reason I can't fathom. So that's fun. This is the core desktop. So this is everything that makes up the core desktop. And then here's some bits for accessibility and some crypto stuff, some network stuff, things that do the update manager and the migrations and the bug reporting and all that stuff, bits for mobile device support, multimedia codecs, sound stuff, fonts you need, emoji, everything you need for printing to go. And that's the core version of Ubuntu Mate. And then the desktop piece is all the apps on top. So these are all of the additional components. So Evolution, the backup tool, Celluloid for video, and so on. And these are the files that basically define Ubuntu Mate and how Ubuntu Mate differs from Kubuntu, Xubuntu, gosh, I have to name them all now. Lubuntu, Ubuntu Budgie, Ubuntu Cinnamon Remix. I saw there's an Ubuntu Lumina remix in the works as well, which is very interesting. I fancied the idea of having a go at that myself, but somebody's already on it. So that's seed packages. I don't need to update those today. Anyway, my install's finished, so let's restart. At this stage in the process, it quite often hangs up around the time it asks you to eject the media. I wonder if we have that bug today. Let's restart. Yeah, looks like it. That's jammed. Okay, so we'll just... Oh, hang on a minute. Actually used... Oh, no, it's good. Ha! Clicking buttons in the wrong display again. Right, okay, so now that this is booting my installed VM, here we go. Let's log in. Oh, that's the wrong password. There we go. Oh, I didn't. Shut down. I didn't actually eject the media. So let's run my script again. That should pick up the change and just boot off the disk this time. Right. I've done that thing where I need to drag it into the VM. There we go. The ABS screen. Right. Let's actually log in. So let's get the updates from the archive. Send telemetry. One more Ubuntu Mate user counted. And we'll just upgrade. That should just be all of that stuff we saw earlier. Hopefully this will work outside of live. If not, let's see if that applies. Okay, that's good. So if we just look at the appearances, we can look in the backgrounds here. we should see that we don't have a Focal Fossa in there. At least I don't see one, which is expected. And we don't have the new background, but we do have this one that was in the change from the previous release. So we'll just close that. We'll add our PPA, because the packages that we uploaded to the archive haven't transitioned yet, so I can't access those. Well, I could, but I'm not going to enable all of proposed for those. Let's do that. Say yes, I accept the risk and the skull and crossbones. And let's upgrade, and I should pull in all of those bits. So there we go. And shouldn't take too long. Stream health is okay. It's putting up with this. Also, the subtle music you can hear in the background is being streamed from Spotify, a Creative Commons compendium. Thought that would. Has anyone noticed the music, or is it too quiet to be audible? Right, okay, so if I just reboot. Because, now. Yeah, okay, good. Appearance. Background. So there's the new background, which is selected, but it hasn't actually been picked up. It's been cached. So, and there's a green Fossa. So there we go. There's Felicity, and there's her grey cousin. So those new art packages are there, and there is the new default. So Billy Whiz, I think that's looking good. And I'm pretty happy with that. Right, so I think I will probably call it a day there for this one. I think. Before I go, I'd be interested to know if there are any particular topics, you know, anything about, you know, how Ubuntu and Debian are put together that anyone's ever wondered about. Maybe I can cover that if it's in, you know, a sphere where I can do some stuff. What I'm thinking is that the next live stream, I'm going to go and get the designs from the Yaru guys and update the Ubiquity slideshow. So I'll change the theming of that and update that package and test it. And that's a slightly more interesting update, because that's a package that exists in Ubuntu and is shared by all of the flavors. So I have to submit a merge proposal for that one that has to be peer reviewed, because it's not just affecting my distro, it's affecting everyone in the Ubuntu project. So that has some dynamics to it. So I may even do that a little bit later today. I may go and have a cup of coffee, and if Mads is around, and I think he might be, he can supply me with the good stuff. So I might be back a little bit later to update the Ubiquity slideshow. And the other one that I'm working on is adding env-enc accelerated encoding to FFmpeg in Ubuntu and in Debian. So I've done the work for Ubuntu, and I'm in the process of upstreaming that work to Debian, which involved some legal discussion, which we've been signed off to do. So I'll be covering that one in the next day or so, I imagine, because that's something pressing that I need to get done. And then forthcoming streams like this will be other related things to uplifting and fixing the distribution. See if we can get into some bug fixing, or maybe applying some patches where we need them. Anyway, I think we're about good. So Thank you very much for those of you that turned up rather. It was nice to be here and not be on my own. If you found this useful or interesting, then give it a thumbs up or something. Better yet, subscribe. Maybe you won't miss the next one when that happens. They'll typically be around this time. I'm usually doing stuff around this time in the evening until a bit later. And as I say, I might be back a bit later to do some more of this stuff. So, without further ado, thank you very much. And I'll see you all next time, hopefully. And bring your friends. Bring your friends. Mash that like button. Ding that bell. I don't know why you have to ding that obnoxious little bell, but it really helps me out if you do. Thank you, everyone.